Hi, welcome to Meet the Mailers, where print and direct mail leaders share ideas, strategies, and experiences that drive engaging and profitable mail. I'm Paul Bobnak for Who's Mailing What, a direct mail 2.0 company, and today I'm talking with Judith Maloy. She is CEO and founding director of Polaris Direct in Hooksett, New Hampshire. Now, before we get started today, if you have any questions or feedback, please leave them in the comment box below. You can show your support by tapping the like button. And to get notified of when we add new videos to the Who's Mailing What channel, click on subscribe. Now let's meet the mailers. Hi, Judith. Welcome.
Hey, Paul, how are you? It's great to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Likewise, thanks for doing this. It's you've been on my radar forever, but I really wanted to have you in here. So thanks again. And why don't we start by talking about everybody, has their own unique story from where they started to where they are today. So what's your journey been?
Sure. Well, what a journey, right? I mean, it's a long journey, right? I've been doing this for a long time. So I started my career in New York City in the late 1980s, which, I shudder to think of the number of people on this, podcast, on this YouTube channel that actually weren't even born, but whatever.
Right.
We'll get past that. But with that comes lots of experience. I worked in New York City for a list brokerage, list management company, names in the news. And I was doing subscription offer, promotions for Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Rodale Press. Back in the day, I mean, that was big business. And so that's how I launched into the world of direct marketing. From there, I went to work for ad agencies in the city, really doing marketing strategy on the account management side, working with clients like Mercedes-Benz and Chase Manhattan Bank on some of their acquisition programs, their lead gen programs. And I guess what was interesting and kind of groundbreaking about that time in my career was, the world of direct marketing was really trying to find a place at the table in large agencies where there was a lot of, marketing dollars, allocated for print and collateral and outdoor and broadcast and all of those things. But there was not really, a lot of dollars allocated for direct mail and direct marketing. So working on the Mercedes-Benz business was really interesting because we got this really small budget and we, did a lot with that. And it was a time when, I think in my career, it was a time, I think everybody in the direct marketing industry really has to promote not only, the company they work for and the brands that they represent, but also the industry, right? And I guess where I'm going with this is, direct marketing, we're always selling direct marketing, right?
Right.
And so there was a lot of that going on at this hybrid situation where, you're working in an agency and, marketing dollars are being spent, and let's spend more in direct marketing was kind of always the message because it's measurable, right? And that was always something that the, traditional agency folks could never wrap their head around, which was kind of fun because, when you can measure it, you can kind of, make a case for it and, allocate more dollars. So, the direct marketing industry grew pretty significantly during those years. I also worked for a direct-to-consumer pharmaceuticals company agency that, if you think about back in the day, there wasn't a lot of direct-to-consumer marketing for pharmaceutical products. Rogaine was one of the first, for example, and the agency Klempner Advertising that I worked for repped for Rogaine. And, look at today, fast forward, the evolution. That's all you see on television now, right? So direct-to-consumer marketing for pharmaceuticals. So I was part of like some real groundbreaking stuff, which was kind of fun. I love that part of my career. We started Polaris in 2003. It was a startup. And we began Polaris with some partners. I took a little hiatus in my career before that to have children and, and start a family. So from there, we started Polaris in 2003. We moved to New Hampshire actually to buy a company. Ended up, we didn't buy the company, but we had relocated our entire family. So we were kind of like, well, what do we do now? And so we started Polaris, and the rest is history. We've been doing it for, oh gosh, almost 25 years. So it's a huge milestone for us. And, we've grown the business and it's really transformed things for us.
Right, right. And I
That's
should point out,
kind of where we are today.
right, of course. And I should point out, of course, that you are, as of 2024, a Printing Impressions Printing History Hall of Fame inductee,
Yeah.
which is quite a feather, I say.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of that.
Absolutely.
I've stayed with the industry and I've always been on the marketing side, right? But
Right.
my partners and my husband, in fact, Joe Maloy, he was
hmm
always in print production
hmm
sales for direct mail. And
hmm
he successfully did that in New York City, and that's in fact how we met. So I guess, direct
Okay.
marketing is my true love too, right? In this world of direct
Of
marketing.
course. Yeah.
So,
So,
but yeah, so I'm proud of that recognition, and it's been a good journey.
yeah, definitely. So can you give like a brief rundown of Polaris Direct's products and services?
Sure. Yeah. So we started as a letter shop, right?
Right.
So just pretty much bindery. If you imagine a startup, you need a lot of dollars, a lot of capital, and we didn't have as much to invest in printing equipment. So we started with letter shop equipment. So we would outsource our print production, and then over time we'd watch and look at the changes that were happening in the world of print. And when high-speed inkjet became something formidable, we were like, let's jump in, let's do this. It was time. So I guess around 2018, we invested in variable data print technology. So we are a full service, large scale, high volume print production and mail operation.
hmm
And we have been doing that, forever. In 2018, about the same time we invested in variable data print, we said, now's the time also to bring agency services to the
hmm
forefront and to offer that to our clients. So we're a
hmm
full service, end-to-end solution for creative marketing strategy, all the way through print production, mail, postal optimization, results tracking and analysis, but really multi-channel marketing, right?
hmm
So we've seen the industry evolve from just print to have all of these
Oh, yeah.
channels integrated, working together. And at Polaris, we're able to offer that for our clients as well.
hmm
So web design, web page creation, QR code generation, all of the channel integration. We have a platform called PostalLink, and that
Right.
is our white label for DM 2.0. And
hmm
we offer up, those services around social match. We really believe that mail is the driver in a
hmm
multi-channel campaign. And then we integrate those digital channels to enhance the mail and make it kind of super powerful.
Right. So, you began your career in list brokerage and working on the data side of marketing, right?
Yeah.
How did that shape your perspective on print production and the role that data, uh, you know, uh, has today in successful campaigns?
Yeah. So I think what's really significant about today in terms of data is that it's so accessible, right? And
hmm
you can get it fast and it's
Right.
also very accessible, and there's so much data out there, right? Compared to those early days in list brokerage, where you're, renting that subscription file or whatever.
Mm.
But,
I remember that.
so data, what makes a good direct mail campaign? It's good data, it's creative content and the format that you choose, it's strong offer and call to action, right? So those are the components. Data for me rises to the top, because
hmm
if you don't have good data, I mean, you can't fuel your campaign. It really is the fuel for your campaign.
Yeah.
And so for us, data is extremely important. And I think for other mail service providers or print service providers, their focus on data is more about deliverability,
hmm
of the data and COA and all the things, postal optimization, all important parts. But we at Polaris also focus on the targeting, right? And
hmm
how to be really micro-targeted, how to utilize data and leverage data and look at analysis of data in order to get the right target audience for your message.
Right.
So we
Right.
do
Well, that's
that.
the
Yeah.
mhm. Well, that's the perfect segue because Polaris, like you mentioned, 2018, installing high-speed inkjet for VDP, right?
Yeah.
And we talk a lot, as an industry about personalization. It's been on my radar for well over 10 years now, and seeing where it's used and how it's used. But it's more like it's how it's not being used even right now in 2026. The vast majority of what I see that people mail that people give to me, or that I look at for through who's mailing what, they're just still like really generic offers and designs. And so what's the story with that?
Yeah. So, when we started strategic marketing services, that was the big message, right? Talk to our clients about how to use variable data print, how
Hmm.
to take as much data as you can possibly give us, and then create that relevant messaging, make it, perfectly aligned, personalized to the recipient. And, we've been singing off that song sheet for a long time, right? Like you
Right.
say. And have we really moved the mountain, so to speak?
Hmm.
And and I'm going to say there's been incredible progress, but yeah,
Yes.
there is
Yeah.
still such a long way to go when it comes to the amount of data that people are using, that brands are using for their messaging. And, I think it really, if you think about it, it really revolves around, you know, regulation, compliance, data privacy. Those have all been barriers, I think,
Hmm.
for, kind of bringing more data forward. But I think things are changing, and I think we're seeing that evolution continue. And change management. I mean, this is an exercise in change management, and we need to be patient, with some of these clients who have legacy systems for data collection and storage. And
Right.
so when all of that goes away and when things change, we'll be able to use all of that data more effectively. And we're on that road.
Okay.
It's
Good.
happening.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I've talked to people who have basically, I mentioned particular stories before, but I'll just briefly say that
Yeah.
I've talked to people who basically say, yeah, we collect lots and lots and lots of data, but we don't have enough people or anybody to tell us exactly what we should be doing with it and all the ways they should be even
Yeah.
using it. Even on the digital side, I mean, where I spend most of my money is on uh, supermarkets, and it's like I just don't see enough that's really like personalized and taking advantage of it. So it's there. So
Yeah, and I think
it's
also
evolution.
with agentic AI, we're going to see more,
Hmm.
utilization of data coming into maybe not the initial mail, but then beyond that, in the follow-up, in the response, how data is kind of used in that regard.
Right.
And we can talk more about agentic AI, which is
Yeah.
so exciting. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there's more there's more to come, and I think it's happening. I think that it's a slow roll.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Well, many campaigns, today they like you touched on this before. Many campaigns today blends direct mail with digital channels like email, social, online ads. So, what does effective integration look like in practice to you, and where do you see marketers maybe making mistakes?
Yeah, so I think that, the strategy, as I mentioned, direct mail, we always like to think that direct mail is the driver in a multi-channel. So we start there. But
Hmm.
that's not always appropriate for every client or every brand. So I think what's important is that synergistic messaging and the idea of, consistent messaging across channels, right? And then doing everything timed, as best you can, right? Considering the USPS and SLAs, kind of change. So, so as far as timing goes, you need to build in a little flexibility, but you try and sync up the messages really with an eye on customer experience, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
I'm talking marketing talk here, but this is, always step into the shoes of the consumer, the
absolutely.
recipient, and then what makes sense, right? And then have that consistent, clear message across channels. But as far as mistakes go, I mean, in our industry, the direct marketing industry, I kind of don't look at it as mistakes because, our industry, we're always testing, right? We're always
Right.
testing new ideas. So you kind of
Agreed.
say, well, nothing's really a mistake, is it? It's just
Mhm.
a test, that failed.
Right, right, right,
So let's
right,
just leave it at that, right?
right, right. Well,
So,
that kind of leads me to, again, like my next question, which is talking about innovation. Polaris Direct has won Innovative Company of the Year, Innovator of the Year from Printing Impressions again in 2024.
yeah.
So as AI reshapes how marketers use data and personalization, where do you see the greatest opportunity for the direct mail industry, like in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think we've been talking about AI to the point of exhaustion, right? And I think
Right.
we're at that kind of precipice. We're at that point where it's like, okay, now let's start to move on this. You know, eh, let's monetize it. Let's show ways that we can utilize it effectively with our communication. And I think that agentic AI, where you're creating frictionless communication, where you're giving voice to direct mail. I think that's where we're going in the really near future.
Hmm.
Where you can use personalized QR codes to drive messaging. Somebody scans that QR code and they're led to a person that says, "Hey, Judith, thanks for, reaching out. And I'd love to tell you more about this special offer. And
Right.
let's just pick an industry. So financial services, you know, they sent me a mailing and it's a special HELOC offer. I mean, we're doing this for clients now where it's a personalized URL where
Mhm.
it doesn't have an agentic AI component to it. When you scan it, you're going to a website and you're getting messaging there. But I'm talking about like a voice and a conversation happening,
Mhm.
which I think is really kind of close to happening. Where then you're talking to this, AI agent about, this special offer around HELOC, and it's just designed for you and because of my credit
Mhm.
history. So here we're incorporating data, right? We're incorporating
Right.
the credit history, we're incorporating, income levels, we're incorporating geography to give
Mhm.
the right HELOC offer, home equity loan for those who are, I'm talking
Right.
financial services here, but I mean, so you're able to kind of create that dialogue and that communication. It starts to tie things together. And I think that's a utilization of AI in communications in the real near future. And there's tons of use cases, right? So it's not only for
Yeah.
financial services, but imagine it for car dealerships, right? Doing
Oh,
a test drive.
absolutely.
Oh, you have your eye on that Audi SQ8, come
Hmm.
test
Hmm.
drive it. And your last car was blue, so you want a blue one,
Right. Right.
So you're incorporating this data to kind of bring that message forward and to create that dialogue.
Hmm. Well, let's switch gears a little bit from all of that and talk about more about Polaris Direct. You've long been a certified women-owned business. So how has that status shaped your relationships with clients and partners? And following on to that, what advice would you give to other women who are building businesses in the printing and marketing industries?
Sure. So, you know, we became a woman-owned business because we listened to our clients. That we
Hmm.
had a couple of clients that said, this is something real. These are mandates within corporations, large enterprise companies that want to do work with small business owners, with diverse business owners. And, it made perfect sense for us to align with our customers' needs there and to bring and to bring, forward a women-owned business. And so, but first and foremost, before being a women-owned business, we're a large-scale, high-volume direct mail company.
Right.
And I've learned through the years, you never lead with, women-owned. It's really that special sauce, right? And I've always looked at it
Right.
like that. You have to have strong value proposition. You have to be a credible vendor in the supply chain, and you meet all that criteria. And then you say, oh, and we're a women-owned business. And the one thing women-owned status has given us is really a network of companies like us, other women
Mhm.
business enterprises, as well as corporate members who believe in diversity mandates, coming
Mhm.
forward and wanting to do business with us. So we get that kind of place at the table to talk to procurement teams
Mhm.
about who we are, and otherwise maybe we wouldn't have that opportunity. So it really is about accessibility and about door opening, networking. That's really helped us. But you don't win the business just because you're a woman-owned company, that's for
Right.
sure.
Of course.
And but we've learned a lot through that network, and have really worked to align ourselves with best practices, and our business and value proposition aligns nicely with a lot of enterprise corporations that want to do business with us. So
Mhm.
and what would I say to other women-owned companies, or in the print and mail world? It's a male-dominated industry, like so
Right.
many.
Right.
But I've never seen that scare away a really strong, confident, woman uh, in business, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
just kind of keep pushing forward. But I highly recommend mentorship. If you don't have a mentor, get one. It's one of the most fulfilling aspects of my career is having a mentor. In fact, my most significant mentor actually works with Polaris now, works with me, and she's our business development strategist. But at the
Oh, great.
time, I did the corporate mentorship program through the Center for Women in Enterprise, and
Mhm.
was connected with this woman, Amy Akampora, and she
Oh, yeah.
actually was very, helpful in helping us with our selling strategy for Polaris. And then from there, when she was at a place where she wanted to switch careers and pivot a little bit, she came to work for us. So, and she's been working for us ever since. So, good things happen when women get together. We're uh, really succeed together, and we kind of empower each other. So I think, networking is key. And I would
Yeah.
say for women business owners, use your network. It's important. It's powerful.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's so great for also for building the workforce up tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the stuff that, is happening in our industry around that,
Mhm.
with the Printing Alliance, and
Mhm.
it's really important. And there's an incredible amount of, men and women supporting each other in our industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, and and I actually think, you know, there's great opportunity to partner too among each other. And in
Mhm.
fact, we always seek out women business enterprises to do business with, because we're tracking all of our spend too for
Right.
tier two, which is, working with other diverse companies, minority owned businesses. So it's great.
Yeah, that's terrific. So talking about sustainability, it's really like one of those issues that's increasingly important for both brands and consumers. And Polaris Direct, I wrote this down, it's quite a list. Polaris Direct has earned a silver sustainability rating from EcoVadis for 5 consecutive years. You're certified by my friends at the Sustainable Green Printing Partnership, the Forest Stewardship Council, Sustainable Forestry Initiative. So, as you talked about with a core business that involves high volume print and mail, how do you make the case to skeptical clients that sustainability and mail really do work together?
Right. We hear it a lot, right? In direct mail, it's just, oh, we're wasting paper, whatever.
Right.
Okay. It's a renewable resource, right? So trees are planted so that they can be harvested, and paper is a big industry. And so, but we're good stewards of the earth. But we felt it was important. If you think about the supply chain, and you think about the companies we do business with, they have a concern, right? They want to know that we're doing things to be good stewards of the earth, that we are looking at sustainability. It's important,
Mhm.
not just in terms of, uh, reduction of waste or recycling, or it's social governance. It's all the things that go into
Mhm.
having a sustainable business. They want to know that you're
Mhm.
there tomorrow, right? So
Right.
what are best practices around every aspect of sustainability, of which for the printing world and, for direct mail is, hyper focused on the environmental aspect, right? So,
Mhm.
gosh, I don't even know how many years ago it was. I saw the writing on the wall, where there was a lot of talk about vendors being responsible in this manner around sustainability. And so that's why we made it a cultural shift and a corporate initiative, to really kind of check the boxes and be able to not just check the boxes, but to go and get these certifications so that we're upholding the standard, right?
Mhm.
So I actually asked, we have a woman who actually, her sole job is to really worry about how we, reduce our carbon footprint, how
Mhm.
we, do all the things that kind of connect sustainability in the business. And so I asked her today, just give me a quick stats. And, every year we recycle over 1 million pounds of paper, over 100,000 pounds of corrugated. Our goal is to really overall reduce waste, and
Mhm.
94% of all waste is recycled. Since 2022, we've reduced landfill waste by 63%. We're tracking
Right.
all this so that we can, you know, um, look at these certifications and can uphold the, audit standards, and the controls for being, good stewards. So it's important. It's an important part.
Yeah, absolutely. That's terrific to hear.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I usually ask people around as we're coming to the end is basically uh, thinking, about the mail that you get at home or your office, right? Kind of like what I've been doing for my career, which is basically like, what is it about a piece of mail that you received that really made you stop and pay attention? Is there any recent piece you've received like that?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. You know, uh, I'm such a mail geek, right? I mean, my husband and I like fight to see who's getting the mail out of the mailbox so we can kind of go through it first and say, look at this. And I would say I get excited about really good intentional mail piece design, but I
Mhm.
also get super excited about mail pieces that look terrible, because then I see
Right.
that as an opportunity, right? And we put
Yeah,
that
same
on our
here.
list of prospecting. We got to reach out to these guys because they
Oh,
need,
that's a good idea. Yeah.
so, but I will say so I'm not going to say that I got like one mail piece recently that was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this piece. I'm going to say that I get excited when I see, like, you know, online, you wouldn't even want to see my desk over there. Like, I've got like,
Hmm.
stacks of direct mail, like just sitting there. I'm like a
I
direct
have it
mail
all
hoarder.
over. Yeah. Hmm.
So, but when you see, the Googles and the Amazons of this world sending direct mail, you're
Hmm.
like, okay, this is good, right? So they're
Yeah.
embracing. So that gets me excited. I mean, I get excited when, here's maybe an example of, maybe it's not such a great mail piece. Like, they didn't necessarily use all of the space the way I would have used it in terms of
Hmm.
design, but kudos to, Ballard Design for stepping away from
Hmm.
their big saddle stitch catalog to do like a mini mailer, right?
Hmm.
That's good stuff, right? I'm
Right. Right.
excited about that. I mean, Progressive, they've been doing good stuff for a long time. And this is
Yeah,
actually
theirs is
a
good.
really exceptional piece where they've
Hmm.
got the QR code on the outer. So
Hmm.
you don't even have to break into the envelope in order to go right to their quote page, and
Right.
I, on their website. So, and the good utilization of windows to show variable data print personalization. We love all that
Hmm.
stuff, right?
Hmm.
So,
Same
so
here. Yeah.
there's tons of, things I get excited about when I look at mail, you know, and those are just a few, but I could go on
That's
and on
terrific.
about that. So I'll just stop right there.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I have stacks surrounding me that I just have little post-it notes on about what's interesting about them. And if I ever get to write about every single one of them, it'll be 24/7. There's so many interesting things going on. So,
Well, I like
well,
your passion about that, Paul. That's good. Passion.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
passionate direct marketers out there, so that's good.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, well, again, thank you for being here today.
Sure.
Really appreciate that. Who's Mailing What and Direct Mail 2.0, we're all about helping people with their needs and wants in lots of different ways. How can people reach out to you and Polaris and find out more about your solutions?
Yeah, and I'll say Who's Mailing What and DM 2.0 have been
Mhm.
great partners and resources for us over the years. I highly recommend partnering and taking advantage of the resources there. As far as Polaris goes, there are many ways to get a hold of us. You can call us, you can visit our website, text us, email us, but certainly we'd love to hear from you because there's always the opportunity to improve upon a direct mail campaign. We love working with clients who've never done direct mail before. Our strategic marketing services agency, group here, the designers and the copywriters are more than willing to kind of educate clients. We've done that with a lot of nonprofits locally and regionally. So yeah, we would love to hear from you. Website,
Okay.
call us. We have a receptionist, believe it or not, who
Great.
will answer
Still,
the
that's
phone.
awesome. Love it. Love it. Live person. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you, Judith, for everything. And thank all of you out there for joining us today. Remember, questions and feedback are always welcome. Tap those like and subscribe buttons. And if you want to be highlighted in a future Meet the Mailers, please reach out to me. My contact info can be found in the paragraph below by tapping Show More. And we can talk about how we can showcase your company, your solutions, and your thought leadership. Thanks again for watching Meet the Mailers, and see you here next time.